Mindset Monday. Yep, here we go. I always have to triple check, make sure things are going well. All the lights are green or whatever it is. How is everybody doing today? Give everybody a few minutes to come in. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. So today, I'm laughing because I can see stuff happening all over the place. Today, wanted to talk with you about, let me pull up my notes. Today, I wanted to talk with you about some concepts that I think are super helpful in terms of creating your art, that are really helpful to understand. And that is your style, your voice, and your artist identity. So your self-concept. And I like to really define these things because I think it's really easy to get it kind of mixed up or to just not be clear on it. So your style has to do with the specific way that you use painting techniques on the canvas. Sometimes it's your subjects, but a style is something that can change pretty quickly. It's not permanent. And the way that I really think about it is like, okay, it's kind of in line with, if you think about it in clothing, it's kind of like fashion. And it's something that can change quickly. It's not a fad. I mean, for some people, I suppose it could be a fad, but it's not, I don't really equate it to a fad. It's more like your style. So some people may have a really conservative dress style. Some people may have like a really flamboyant dress style, but they can change it quickly. Your voice comes from a deeper place. It's how you see things. It is your painting philosophy. I think of it more like it's kind of like the expression of your beliefs about your subject or your art. And your voice might evolve, but the core tends to be the same. You can also kind of think of that as like your values as a human being. Like you might change your opinions on some things, but the core person who you are tends to stay the same, unless there's sort of like a disruptor that's thrown in there. But it's pretty solid. Your artist identity, your self-concept as an artist. This is how you see yourself. This is how you see the artist who makes the art. And that's kind of what I wanted to focus on today and talk about today is your self-concept as an artist. But I wanted to introduce it this way because I think these three things really work together. And I think it's really helpful to understand all of them and how they impact you. So last week on the podcast in episode, it was, where are we at? I think it's episode 277. We looked at the stories we tell ourselves and how that impacts our experience in the studio. Today, I want to invite you to really think about your self-concept as an artist. And by that, I mean, how do you see yourself? What is your artist identity? Your self-concept, your artist identity is what you believe about yourself deep down as an artist. And the reason I think it's so important to just bring some awareness to it and assess it a little bit is because it determines how you show up and what you do. And what you do includes creating your art, includes showing your art to like what you do would be like the actual creation of your art, showing your art to other people, and even offering your art for sale. Often there's layers to the self-concept, but just to give you a couple examples that are sort of like at the top layer, A self-concept could be defined by what an artist sees themselves as. So, for example, I'm a beginning artist, or I'm a full-time artist, or I'm a self-taught artist, or I'm an abstract artist, I'm a representational artist. So those are like the high level things. Or sometimes artists will define themselves by accomplishments. And that might include, like, okay, I'm a gallery artist, or I'm an artist, but I haven't sold my work yet. I'm an artist and I'm starting to sell my work. And sometimes artists will define themselves by what they've not accomplished. So examples of that might include, I don't sell my work, I don't show my work, I'm not good at color, things like that. And so I just wanted to invite you to take a few seconds or a few minutes even to just think about yourself and think about what your self-concept as an artist is. How do you see yourself, the artist who creates the work? What are the labels that you put on yourselves? And when you do this, when you sort of like take my invitation, just list them all out without any judgment, be really neutral about it, and you're just noticing what comes up. This this is super important because how you see yourself as an artist affects so much how you show up. It affects the possibilities and the opportunities that you will allow yourself to step into. And I've been thinking about this lately in my own practice and with some of the artists that I work with. Like, here's what tends to happen. Like, if your concept is attached to the outcome, then as long as things go well in a painting, then you're going to be happy. If the self-concept is like, I'm a beginner, as long as people praise the work, then you're going to be content with this current skill set that you have. If your self-concept is that you're an artist who can't manage her studio time, for example, then as long as nobody interrupts you in the studio, you're going to have a good day. But as soon as you get to, as soon as like in that example, as soon as the kids call or work gets hectic or life just happens, things start to fall apart. As soon as, if you're really attached to, if the self-concept is attached to the outcome, then as soon as you get to the messy middle and what's happening on the canvas isn't matching on what's in the head, then that can, and your self-concept is completely attached to that, then things start to spiral. Or like, as soon as positive feedback isn't received, then second guessing starts to come in, and you start wondering, like, oh, is this really, like, is this okay? Did I paint it right? Is it like nobody's saying anything? Or all these little things that start to come off of that. There's these little like twinge of anxiety or doubt or frustration. And that can be, if we're not aware of it, that can be the start of that kind of like spirally thing that happens. And often that's when self-sabotage kicks in. That's when we start to do things that maybe aren't in alignment with who, like, with our goals or who we hope to be. Your self-concept also is what sets your internal thermometer of who you are. And I talked about the artist thermostat in episode 273. So like 3 or 4 episodes ago, episode 273 of the podcast, I went really deep into that. But this idea of the artist thermometer, the artist thermostat, is sometimes, even though we want to believe that we're a bona fide artist, there's a little part of us that's maybe not quite sure. And that belief that's not quite sure is going to act as a thermostat. So when things get hot, it's going to cool things down. When things get a little chilly, then the heater is going to kick in. if there's a part of you that thinks that you can't do it, when you get to a certain place where you might prove yourself wrong, your thermostat kicks in and it regulates you back to the place where you're comfortable. So you might not 100% believe that you're an artist who can consistently get your work done and finish a series, for example. So when you start a painting series, you'll only get as far as your self-concept allows you to. Once you kind of flirt with that line or you go a little bit over, your internal regulator, if you're not aware of it, is going to kick in. You'll be certain that the other idea that you had is so much better. For example, thinking about working on a series, you'll be like, oh man, I should have done that other thing. And then you switch to a new subject matter, so you don't finish the series. So you're staying in alignment as like the artist who you believe you are, which is you can you don't think that you can consistently get your work done and finish a series, or you'll suddenly find yourself procrastinating maybe, or resisting going into the studio. It'll be different for everybody what you do, but you'll find a way to delay or not finish the series at all if you think that you're an artist who, if that's your self-concept as an artist. Another example would be like you might not 100% believe that you're an artist who can effectively manage your time. So maybe you get to a place where you get into the studio consistently. So you can put it on your schedule, you can put it on your calendar or whatever, but that's as far as your self-concept goes. And when it comes time to do it, when you're there, you don't complete the work that you wanted to do. You've only gotten as far as your belief about yourself will allow you to. Another example would be you might not 100% believe that you're an artist who can make a living off of your art. You want to believe that you can, but there's this little part of you that doesn't agree. And that part of you thinks that it's impossible to make a living as an artist. That's the part that thinks that it's impossible, or that's the part that thinks that only other people can do it. That's for like, other people can do that. I can't. Maybe a few artists do it, and that's a magical thing that happens, but I'm not really one of them. So you'll be able to get to the place that you believe in, and then you'll stop. So maybe you'll create the work, but you won't actually finish your website, so nobody else can see it, and then you're not in a position to sell your art. So the good news is that our self-concept as an artist is something that we do create for ourselves. It doesn't come from the outside. We define what it is for ourselves. And, like this has been sort of the recurring theme of a lot of the most recent podcasts is we create everything that we do, everything that we are, everything that is on our canvas. We create it in our minds first, and then we bring it out. So your self-concept is something that you created in your mind first, and then you live into it, because we're constantly evolving and we're constantly becoming. And who we are becoming is the idea that we have about ourselves. So I think it's really important to create like an idea that you want to live into, and not fall back on other way, on a version of yourself that you actually don't want to live into. And it's not stagnant. It is it's a very consistent growing and evolving into our belief about who we are. And to me, that's what is kind of exciting about it. And whatever, I'm a dork, so I think it's kind of fun. As we grow into our higher selves, I think it's really important to be very, very intentional about it. So first, what that means is really thinking about what is your self-concept and how would you personally define it? Like if you just kind of set your baseline for where you are right now, if you were just be really objective about it and super important to be non-judgmental, because if we, for example, if you take my invitation and you start to sort of like really think about like, what is my self-concept as an artist, and you start to write down these things about yourself, if you're judgmental about it, there will be a temptation to edit it, or to be like, oh no, that's not what I want. For example, like, I don't want to be an artist who thinks that they can't sell their work, so I'm not going to own up to that. And if you push it aside, don't own up to it, that's how those types of that part of your self-concept, those types of beliefs will kind of like, they don't go away. They'll just kind of be like, okay, I'll come out in a different way. So that's why it's really, really important to just write it all down and not have any judgment about it, not censor yourself. Most of the time, artists haven't truly defined what kind of an artist they are, or what kind of an artist they want to evolve into. So their self-concept of who they are as an artist, it tends to be this kind of like mashup of lots and lots of ideas and myths and stories from tons of sources that maybe you don't agree with, or maybe they contradict each other. We might take a little bit from our teachers, a little bit from our parents, a little bit from social media, a little bit from our culture, how our culture sees artists, and then maybe add a dash from, something that we read in a book a long time ago, or this is what I always think is funny, is just thinking about it, like when you really kind of break it down, like our interpretation of an author's interpretation of an artist who lived 300 years ago. And of course, there's lots of clues, and of course that there can be lots of very, very educated guesses, but at the end of the day, they're kind of educated guesses. So like, those are the things that I really like to kind of question and notice. When I think it's really fun, like when I find those, because I'm like, oh, okay, I see. Yeah, that's what I think Rembrandt probably did, or that's what I think, like, I don't know, Caravaggio was thinking, but who knows? So often we're not even conscious of what our own self-concept truly is. And this is just the lens that we've accepted, but it colors everything that we do, and it colors what we think is possible or not possible for ourselves. So I want to challenge you to go a little bit deeper and really, really examine what you think that means, where you got those ideas, and then decide if you want to keep them, if that's what you want your self-concept to be. So like the best example I can think of as a self-concept that I think most artists don't particularly like is the idea that an artist has to struggle all the time, or that an artist that it's really, really hard and to make a living as an artist, that it's almost impossible, like that kind of thing. If you just eliminate it, if you just decided like that is not going to be my self-concept, then that changes how you see things. It changes how you see yourself and your capabilities as an artist. So that is like I think that is like one of the most powerful kind of byproduct, side effect of making this list, and then deciding on purpose what you want your self-concept as an artist to be. And then once you sort of start to identify that, you'll find ways to step into that. You'll find ways to become that person. And it really is like, once you're really, really clear on that, you'll be able to make decisions easier, and you'll be able to like really think about, like, instead of an infinite number of possibilities, it narrows it down to like, what is it that I with my own definition, my own self-concept as an artist, How will I respond to that? And then the last thing that I kind of want to mention about this is a lot of people kind of interpret this as a fake it till you make it mentality. And I really don't like that term. I don't think it's useful. And the reason I don't is just like, again, like language is really important. So if you think about it, like I'm faking it until I make it, then you're pretending it's like it's fake. Right. And that sort of invites like all sorts of other connotations and all sorts of other understandings and all sorts of like this belief that I'm not really that and I'm a fraud. It kind of like I think it really pushes people in that direction. And so the way that I really think about it is this is me stepping into and becoming the artist that I want to be. This is me growing and evolving into the artist and the person that I am deciding on purpose with intention to be, versus just allowing myself to be kind of at the mercy of all of these thoughts and opinions about what it means to be an artist and never really deciding what that means for myself. I think that's such a more powerful place to be in. So that's what I have for you today. I just want to invite you to really think about like the like who are you now as an artist? Like, what do you think? Like, what do you find when you just notice all of those beliefs that you have about yourself as an artist? And then eventually you want to get to like, do I like this? Do I want to keep that? How is that showing up? Is it producing results that I like? Or, oh, now I totally understand. And this is why not censoring yourself is so important. Now I understand why, even though I intellectually know better, I do these other things that are opposite of what I want. I see it now. It's because like in the back of my head, I was believing this thing about myself. But if I choose something different, that opens up a whole other world of possibilities. All right. So with awareness, with self-assessment comes the power to decide on purpose what your self-concept is. And once you've made that decision, then you can start to step into it and start living it. And when you see that, like when you're looking for it, then you'll start to see all the opportunities and the possibilities that exist for you with that self-concept. So that's what I have for you today. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, everybody, and talk to you soon. Ciao, ciao.